Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Hang on.
We'll wait for the other folks to show up, but yeah, great.
Sure. Can I?
So the question was
Yeah,
gratitude. The topic of gratitude came up. Can you, and you said that it strikes you as an emotional, it belongs in the emotional box. But can
yeah.
you make an argument for it being anywhere else?
I'm struggling to.
Hmm.
Yeah, struggling to. Come on, help me out, dear.
For
No,
me, at least, it feels not part of the personality. It feels different. Same as other emotions, like, I don't know, forgiveness, things like that. They feel more real. Um,
Let's break it down for a second. So the word, right, is derived from grateful. What does that say? Full of great, right? It's an interesting way to look at it, but then it's
yeah,
combined with attitude, isn't it? So you
yeah,
take GR and you put that on top of your attitude.
yeah,
And you go from something being full to something being an attendance. An attitude isn't something that fills you as much as it is something that attends you. Attitude.
yeah,
Because listen, I mean, a person can come to something with a bad attitude or a good attitude or a no attitude whatsoever. But deeper than that, somewhere underneath all that, there actually is something that they carry with them regarding something, right? You can come to a meeting with a good attitude, a bad attitude. But when you talk about the way, here's Sachin, when you talk about the way, you wouldn't be here without having some sort of attitude towards it. What else is related to attitude? Altitude. What are some other
mm,
TDE words? We have gratitude, attitude, altitude. Hmm. You start working things like this, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah,
Yeah.
Keeps your faculties sharp.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. When I think I was coming at the premise wrong of the question of an argument for the other centres. When I turn that round and think about explaining why it doesn't fit with the other centres, it doesn't feel to do with standards or to do with habitual. So it can't be read. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not an intellectual thing. It's a feeling. So it can't be in a why. It's not to do with higher reasoning or principles, so it can't be blue. It's not propositional. Well, actually, it could be. So
Now,
it isn't
hang on,
green,
hang on.
but it could be propositional into what it can develop into. But
Right, but you're putting
yeah,
words towards the centers that I'm not sure that actually fit.
okay,
Do
Yeah.
you know that? I mean, do you know it to be true? Do you know that green is propositional? Do you know that blue is standards based? Do you know that red is discipline?
from
The,
what I've worked into, yeah, but I'm open to the fact that you're about to turn it all upside down as you normally do and chuck in a whole new perception.
from what I
So
remember, those words that Mark was saying were more second self orientated. And I think that the Penny covers that. So with the centres, I always put the word first self, more of a mechanical, automatic processing. And to think about the centres, they need to be in balance. When you step up a notch from there, the second self also has five faces of the soul, and I think that's where the words like principles, standards, proposition comes in. That's where I got my thinking from.
I would like you all to put a big question mark over that.
Right. Okay.
I hate to say it, but that blue Pennyman book, you have it? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Hardcover. Yeah, pretty colors in it with the little cartoon characters and whatnot.
Yep.
What a load of nonsense. What a load of nonsense. It's not coming from it's so elementary from where you all should be in your understanding of it. After all, you carry it around with you. You carry these centers around with you. I didn't mean to go here right now, but let's everything that you read, in fact, everything that I tell you, you should probably put a question mark to and say, well, okay, perhaps, possibly, right?
And then work it.
And then work it. Yeah. Yeah. Because you start to work into that Penn Eman book, and and if you have a bit of content about it that comes from your actual experience with it, you're going to say, this is a load of bullshit. For the most part, some of it's there. Right? I'm sorry to tell you. Everyone has so much faith in all this stuff, but you got to work things from the inside out. I want to set a proposition in front of you for those of you that do know of the scads and scads of archives that have been written throughout the years.
Yep.
Could you sit on an island without ever having read those and recreate them? And if the answer is no, then I have to ask you why not.
Would that come back to unnatural cultural education that takes us in one direction?
Well, it's good to have a cultural education, right? I mean, we talked about the personality last time, didn't we? It has value. It's a listen, one of the principal things that you'll come to see in time is that everything is a substance. Even a thought, even an emotion. It's just we can't measure it with a microscope or weigh it on a scale. Yeah, but it's a substance. So the question, I guess, would be, can you collect those substances for yourself? That's really what this work is about. Yeah. And not just collect it, but be able to transform those substances. Now, some of you know that I've been recently, somewhat recently, but I have taken up the idea of alchemy. And most modern scientists will look at it and say, alchemy, yes, it's where we got our chemistry from. And, those fools were trying to make gold out of lead and obtain the philosopher's stone and, all this type of stuff. And yeah, it's true. I think at some point in time, especially around the 1400s, that was true. They were trying to do all this type of stuff. But let me tell you, if you can connect to the essence of gold in yourself, and you set up your alchemical apparatus, who's to say that you can't actually generate it in the lab? I'm not saying the idea is to go out and create, a bunch of gold coins or whatever, right? But it's the proposition, going back to that word, that sits before you, that you can actually connect to something, refine it, and be generative to something into the world. But it doesn't come from what you've read. It comes from what you've experienced, what you do. Yeah. Mark, what was the best advice I ever gave you? I hope you remember.
Do what you know.
Do what you know. That's right.
Do what you know.
Do what you know. That's the best advice anyone can ever give. And what I meant by that phrase was, well, it's twofold, isn't it? Because, and I'm not suggesting you go out and set up an alchemical lab. It doesn't matter, right? But do what you know from this. Yeah.
You wouldn't let me.
And I won't let you. But the standpoint of, it's very revealing for one, because if you decide to do something like that, okay, or you decide to work into electrobics or reinvent, and not reinvent because it's based on principles, but expand upon something like electrobics, or get into the natural laws. How are you going to do it just sitting in your chair? Yeah, you can't. You can't, because what's going to happen is you're going to immediately connect to the biggest bank of force in the astral light, which is invention. Yeah. Experience yields truth. Thought experiments, unless you're someone like Einstein or Tesla, well, Tesla doesn't belong in that category, but unless you're someone like Einstein, a thought where in his mind a thought experiment was the same as doing. Very few people can do that. You have to actually do something. You have to put it into practice to validate it for yourself. Now, with my very simple and meager lab that I had set up for a while, I learned some new things about the laws that I didn't know before. Can you imagine that? I've been studying them for pretty much my whole life. But until you sit down and do it, you don't realize. Well, I'll give you an example that from our perspective, La and Si are flipped. Can you get to that? Do, re, mi, fa, so, La, Si. It's actually the other way around. Now, this ties into something extraordinary, and I can prove it to you with my lab. But I'd rather you prove it to yourself. But now, I didn't know that before, but then after discovering that by working through the physical process of doing something with the knowledge that I had, I was able to make that discovery. And then that opened up this whole realm of intelligence surrounding the idea of how the mental body comes before the emotional body or astral body. You see, that's a reversal. That's flipped around, isn't it? I mean, the emotional body runs on a lower hydrogen, or the astral body runs on a lower hydrogen than does the mental body. But why is it that the mental body is the first to begin to appear? It's the last to substantiate itself, but it appears first. Yeah. Night, you're interested in astral travel.
Very
I'll
much.
tell you probably can't quite yet do it, but the way to get there is to pick something, pick an object in the room. That cup behind me, for example. All right. Pick that cup. All of you do this if you wish. And begin to think from that position. You're used to thinking from here. And last week I tried to get you to move your ability to perceive yourself down to here. But you're used to generally existing around here. Right? Now, exist over there. Think from there. Now you can look at it. It's okay. You can see it in the background, can you? Here, I'll go to it. Hopefully it'll zoom in on me a little bit. Follow. All right. It's an actual silver chalice. Can you think from here? Too hard? Too far? It's not. I'll tell you that. It's not too far. Can you feel the warmth of my hand? Can you feel the atmosphere starting to generate in this room? Yeah. Now what's happening is this rubber band effect, isn't it? Where each and every one of you, I can see that as you're trying to do this, you get these moments where you're there and then all of a sudden you're snapped back to yourself. Yeah. It's the magnetic attraction of your own aura is very strong. But that's the beginnings. Now, if you want to work into astral travel, there's safe ways to do it. But the first thing you got to do is keep your mentality there. And yes, Mark, there are things that need to be considered. Yeah. Along with that, we've had this conversation about astral travel.
The other thing is, how do we know that we're actually there and this isn't just our imagination?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
How would you propose that as a scientist?
I'm not sure. I'll have a
It's a
think.
good question.
Think about it. There's a way to test it. To see if it's real or baloney. There's a way to test it, isn't there? Okay, Mark, Sam, come back to me. Say something so I get you on my screen. Hello, Pierce. There you go. Good.
Hello.
Sam.
Yep.
Now, do the experiment. Come here. You can see it. Yeah. Come here.
Yeah.
Is there anything in it or not? In the cup? Wait. Tell me about your process right now, because now you're floundering. You see, you had a thought, you had an image in your mind, and then you questioned it, and now you're questioning whether you should have questioned it.
Sounds like me about the emotion earlier on. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the first thought that came into your head?
I'm going to say that there isn't anything in the cup.
Okay. Mark, what do you say?
I'd say that it's empty as well. Yeah.
Hannah?
I get the feeling that it's empty as well.
Okay. Knight?
I'm going to go against the grain and say there's something in it.
Yeah, you would.
Enzi? Enzi?
I also think there's something in it.
Okay. Sachin?
I don't particularly have any thoughts.
All right.
Undetermined for me.
Okay, Knight, Nenzi, you're correct. Now, Knight, we'll come back to you. Begin to sense the nature of what might be in it.
I'm getting just clear water, nothing else.
Okay. Enzi, do you have any impressions?
Something solid. I don't know.
Is there any kind of color or clarity that goes with what's in the cup?
Mm. No.
Okay. You want to see what's in the cup?
Oh.
Let's see. We have a star ruby. I don't know if you can see that. We have a star sapphire there. And then we have the platonic solids. It's a confusing amount of things to have in the cup, isn't it? But this is how you start, okay? You can start, well, yeah. I'm going to say that I got something good from Orman, and it was with a deck of cards, okay? Orman is someone that some of us are familiar with. And you just start off with a deck of cards and you go, red or black. Mentally do it. Black, red, black, red, black, red, whatever the case is. And then you turn them all over and you see how much of the time you were right. After you get to the point where you've got like over 60%, 70% right in the piles, then you begin to do it one at a time. Red or black, you hold it out. Black, right. Okay, and you put it in right and wrong piles and so on and so forth. Part of this, ladies and gentlemen, has to do with the freedom to allow your faculties to be wrong sometimes, and also to train them. You see, this goes back to we had this conversation, didn't we, last time, about how we're so afraid of being wrong. So afraid, right? Mm. Oh God, everyone's going to think I don't have any psychic abilities if I'm wrong. It's okay. It's okay. As a kid, I had this memory. This is the oddball child that I was like, but I used to lay in bed, every morning, and I had this ceiling fan, with the blades and whatnot, ceiling fan in my room, and I would, try different ways of seeing if I could get that thing to move, and I would do that for half an hour every day. As I was waking up in the morning, just to see if I could ever muster the ability to move those fan blades just a little bit. Now, it's a strange thing to do, isn't it, as a kid? It speaks something to the nature of what my essence was like, because essence is much more intact as a child. I never did move the fan blades. Doesn't mean that it's not possible for someone to do so. I don't know, but for me, hasn't happened yet. Now, every once in a while, I'll look at something and just see if I can do it. Yeah. Now, is that crazy? Possibly, based on the cultural view of things. That sounds like the adventures of a nut job, of a crazy man, doesn't it? Right? But what it's doing actually is it's teaching my faculties to be open to what might be possible. Yeah. That's the most important aspect of things, because if you don't know how to have that openness to what might be possible, then, well, I guess you're running fully with what the culture tells you is possible. Yeah, and we have a
So,
word for that. If you're not open to what might be possible,
yeah,
if you're closed to that, then your only openness is to what the culture tells you is possible. And if you look around you, and are happy with the culture and happy with society and happy with the world as it is, then great. But if you're not, you better hope that there's something else that's possible out there. Be my argument. Yeah. All right. This started off really fun. Thank you. Let's get into some things. Okay. See, this is what I had in mind though for today, is that I don't want this to just be, and now we will have lesson number 3 in the 7 lessons type of thing. All right. This is a working session. You all are members of this endeavor because you hopefully came here wanting to be stretched and struggled and have things kind of checked and challenged and actually do the work of it. And it's one thing to just go, I mean, the open meetings are basically they're a buffet. They are what the Eminent was, right? It's coming. Ooh, we're going to learn about the Enneagram and the Kabbalah, and we're going to learn about the astral light and angelic presences and yada yada yada, all these types of things. Yes, but here we're working on ourselves.
Yeah.
We're working to understand things. So
Very interesting. Can I just say
Yeah.
something, Pierce?
Yeah.
I was with Mark earlier in the week, and this exact theme cropped up.
Yeah.
You know, about aspirations, about journeys, where we're going, and this sort of thing. The notion of personal development cropped up,
Hmm.
and I'm sensing that is what the direction you're heading in.
Yeah.
But in a practical, doing, living way. Just to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, very good. I mean, what I was wondering today as I was preparing for this is how much of last week is really remembered, how much of last week was taken up, was worked with, was done. Yeah. Did you actually struggle with these things? Did you put it in your daily habit to, begin to try to sense yourself from here?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Good. Okay, so let's get on with that then. How was it?
I try to incorporate it into everyday life, like when I'm washing up, when I'm driving to college, taking Sam to college, and we're sitting in traffic. And what I found was that I actually slowed down, and also that it didn't matter because normally I get a bit stressed thinking I've got to get in there on time to college, but it was like we'll get there when we get there. It's almost like it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, slowing down definitely.
See, that's
But I
brilliant.
found that if I was sitting down and doing it and feeling it here, I could feel the love and the joy in it, but not when I was doing moving center things like the driving and washing up and hoovering. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason why this is a valuable exercise is because it's intended to take all those 3 centers. I'm going to move my screen so it doesn't look like I'm looking over your shoulder. Okay. It's to take all those 3 centers and to allow them to have some sort of contact with each other. Yeah. You know the symbol with the triangle that has 3 lines coming from each corner coming into it? That's that would be an apt symbol for that. Yeah, the package symbol, I think, is what it's been called at times. That would be an apt symbol for that. But it's allowing, by moving your thought process down to here, where also you have a lot of kind of your emotional energy circulates, they begin to contact each other. And then by following your breathing and getting a body sense of what it feels like to live here, or the sensation of living here, then you're incorporating your moving center. And the joy comes when you mix all 3 of those and they go, wow, this is what it's like to actually communicate. Because really, for them, for these 3 centers as they go on in their life, what it tends to be like is, have you ever joined a Facebook group in a different language? Yeah. My lady Pleiades is Turkish, from Istanbul originally, and she comments on things a lot with some of her friends and groups, that are speaking Turkish with one another. And thank goodness for the translation button. But without the translation button, I just look at it and go, huh, my lady's commenting on some gibberish, right? That's what it's like for the thinking center to watch the activities of the emotional center. And that's what it's like for each center. They just kind of look at it and go, interesting. I wonder what it's doing, what it's talking about. Yeah. Bringing yourself into that core in your essence, which is where your essence lives, allows them to all speak the same language, the language of essence. Back in the day, they wanted to teach everyone Esperanto. You know that language, Esperanto? Yeah, it's supposed to be the universal language, but anyway.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah.
Nah, it didn't fly, right? But anyway, that's what that exercise is geared towards. Let's see. All right. So last week I said, raise your right hand, raise your left hand, touch your nose, all this kind of stuff. Pull your earlobe, and then wanted you to touch your soul, and we had a bit of a struggle for that. If you've done this exercise or this experiment over the course of the week, I hope you can now say, yeah, I think it might actually be here, right, in this area, because that's where I feel that sort of centeredness in yourself. Now I want you to do another experiment for me. All right, let's get the pumps primed. All right, raise your right hand. I can't do it because my camera freaks out. Yeah, raise your right hand for me. All right, raise your left hand. Interesting how everyone set their right hand down. It's okay. We're not playing Simon Says.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. He didn't say
Set
the
that
right
hand down. Right, touch your nose with either hand. You can set. Okay, so now we're all warmed up. Now touch your. There's Sechin, loyal. You can put your hands down now. Touch where you think your essence or your soul might be. Yeah, where you think it might be. Okay, we're still verifying that. Good, you can set your hands down. Touch where your personality is. Here we go. Okay, Sachin's got the top of his head.
combination of that. I've gone for 2 places.
Huh?
I've gone for 2 places.
If this was Simon Says, this would be a really funny Simon Says, right? Simon Says, raise your right hand, right? Simon Says, touch your personality, and everyone ends up in a different position. Yeah, in the front. Okay, so Hannah, you had an interesting gesture. What was that?
I thought it'd been the aura.
Why do you think that? It's always the ladies that get it. I bet you Pleiades is in there doing the same thing.
I don't know. It just felt to me that's where it would be, but I don't know why.
Yeah. Good intuition. It is. It sits in your aura. It lives in your aura. Your personality is primarily composed of 2 things: your history and your name. Your history and your name. Okay. Your name is what it goes by, sort of like there is no good sort of like, it's the cloak of force that it acts under at most times. Okay, but your history is what composes it. You could say one is esoteric, the other is occult. What's that? Which is which, by the way? Do you know? Is the name or the history esoteric?
It's a name.
Yeah. Well done again. Yeah. The occult aspect would be the history. Okay. Now you can say, right, prove it. I don't want to prove it. I want you to go and see if it's true for yourself. One of the things you can do is when you're talking to somebody, you can watch their eyes and see their eyes, physical eyes, and get a sense of which eye is speaking at the moment by where they look. You see, which personality, which nugget of personality floating in their aura, this electromagnetic field that surrounds their body, they're coming from at the time. Now, I will teach you a way to prove this, okay? And it's difficult to do over camera, so I want you to just listen very carefully to the instructions of how to do this. All right. Yeah, we'll try it. Mark, you're right in front of me. We'll try it.
Okay.
Now, don't be fixing your eyes, okay? This is going to be so hard to do over camera. We'll try. It's okay to be
Go
wrong.
on.
We'll try.
Let's
You
give it
can
a go.
try this with other people. You're going to seem like a mind reader, by the way. Okay, when you do this with other people. Mark, I want you to think back to your first kiss and kind of visualize, what that felt like and the environment around it. Don't say anything about it, right? Once you've got that, just kind of You've never
I
kissed?
didn't quite. No, I didn't catch it. My first what?
Your first kiss.
Oh, kiss. Oh, blimey. You better leave the room, dear.
I've got to feel what it felt like.
Okay.
Got it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, I want you to think about your favorite piece of music.
Okay.
Don't say anything about it, but just like hear it in your mind, yeah? Okay? Got that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to visualize the color. What your front door looked like when you were a child. Yeah. What color was it? Once you got
Okay.
it, let me. Got it? Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I want you to just pick any one of those three and
Okay.
begin to contemplate it. Okay. And don't say anything. Okay. And now I would have to say that it was the piece of music. Am I
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. Now, the reason why I can do that is because I'm doing detection. I'm watching where he stores each of these in his personality and his aura. When he was thinking about his first kiss, it was up and to the right. He got that right, and a little bit of gleam on the in the
Don't
eyes.
tell her that.
I meant, yeah, never mind. And with the music, right in the middle, okay, at ear level. And then what was the other one? The door.
The door. Yeah.
Door. He had a different place that he was accessing that information from.
Yeah.
Now, you can try this, okay? Don't just take my word for it. I mean, 1 out of 3, I had a 33% chance of getting that one right. Difficult to do over a camera. Never tried to do that before. Yeah, but you can try this with people. And there's a somewhat of a science called neurolinguistic programming that sort of twigged on this a little bit, but they didn't take it far enough to realize that it's actually they're looking at parts of their aura for information. Interesting, right? Yeah. Okay, but your personality, it's stored there. Thanks, Mark. That was fun. Now, in relationship to the ones, well, actually, I have it up on the board, don't I? In relationship to the personality, the soul or your essence, and your body, what function do you suppose your body serves in that? You can cue off of this. You can't see it, can you? Here, I'll get up. Oh, that's a crazy camera. Can you see the triangle here?
We do is zooming in a bit.
I think I'm as zoomed as it'll go, but I'll try. Nope, that's out. I'll zoom back in. It's got a personality at the top with a positive plus sign next to it. Got your soul or your essence, we could call it, with a negative sign next to it, and your body with a neutral sign next to it. What this is saying is, especially in a somewhat of an undeveloped state, a person's personality tends to play the active part of things, whereas their essence is the passive part of things. Yeah, you don't really get to see much of that. You get to see mostly the personality flowing out of a person. You suppose there's such a thing called an essentionality? Not sure. Yeah. But the body is the mediator between those two. I'm talking about in an undeveloped state. We'll go into what it means to go on a development journey in this context in a little bit. But the body is the neutralizer between those two. It's the mediator between essence and personality. Because here's the thing, Hannah, right? If you're find yourself in your essence and you're finding that joy and that peace, and you're walking through the house and you stub your toe brutally on a coffee table or something as you walk through, more than likely what's going to happen is it's going to snap you right back into personality. It's going to reverse that. Go! And screaming and that sort of physical expression that we find ourselves doing when you clunk into something. Or if you are driving in your car and you find yourself in essence and then someone cuts you off rudely or flips you off in traffic or is following too close, what's it going to do? It's going to put you, and the reason for that is because of the safety factor, but it's going to put you back into personality. So it's the body that mediates. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because by using the body, you can then begin to find the balances between essence and personality. Since it's the neutral vector between the two, if you begin to train your body, you can do that. All right. And so in some schools, you'll find that the idea is to sense yourself. Yeah. Usually they start with something simple, like think about your right big toe, the big toe on your right foot. Yeah, and place yourself there. Placing yourself here is a way to distinguish between that body and essence. The essence and personality aspect. All right. So I just want to give you some of the technology behind why this is workable. I'll give you an additional exercise a little bit later on. But do you see that it's important to begin to try to master your body? Move this back over again. Yeah. Habitual postures, for example. All of these things that we've talked about in the past of, struggle against this, struggle against that. If you're used to sitting in a certain way, see how long you can sit in a different way. Now, it's important when you do exercises like this, not to, like you're not riding a bus in some sort of like position like that, right? It can be something very subtle. If you're used to crossing your right leg over your left, try crossing your left over your right. Or if you're used to sitting with your left thumb over your right, when you cross your hands, try to do it that way. You know that experiment we did before? Bring your hands apart. Go ahead, everyone do this. Bring your hands apart. All right, bring them apart, Mark. Bring them apart.
Yeah.
There we go.
I was watching my head.
Now put them together quickly, right? And look at which thumb is on top. Okay, now take them apart again. Do it again. Which thumb is on top? Same one, probably. Right, now take them apart and make the other thumb on top. Now, doesn't that feel peculiar?
That is weird.
It's odd, right? It feels like you're missing a finger or something, doesn't it? It's like, where did my other fingers go? It doesn't feel right because that's an aspect of the habitual aspect of your personality. That will keep you awake. Just to do that, right? Just to, if you're used to clasping your hands in front of you in a certain way, do it opposite. And once that gets automatic and habitual, pick something else. All right. Leo had a good exercise. It was take a bit of tape or a Band-Aid or something of the sort, and just stick it somewhere on your body, and because it's going to cause an irritation. Stick it on your bum, stick it on your foot, stick it on your neck. Well, try and keep it out of places where where people will see it, because we're not about announcing what we do. Just like sitting on a bus like that. He must be one of those Eminent people. But you can do that, and you can try to throughout the day keep your focus on wherever you stuck that. And again, night, this is very good for learning how to do mental travel as a precursor to the ability to astral travel. All right.
Okay.
If that's something you're interested in, we can work into it in a safe way. There's a
Could you just go over what the rationale again, please, Pierce? So you're becoming aware of your big toe, your difference in postures, difference in seating.
You're sitting in the neutral vector between your essence and personality.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because from the body can see both simultaneously.
Right.
You see, the personality can see the body and not really the soul, to be honest with you. It's too ingrained in what it's doing. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. That's not a great explanation, because with a triangle, each of them could see two aspects. Yeah, being that the body is the mediator between the two, it's able to perceive those vectors simultaneously.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so it's taking yourself out of personality more, but into the other one of the three of the triangle. Yeah, the body.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Right. And so you learned how to live here, but truth is, you can actually do it anywhere. You can live in your pinky if you like. All right, begin to practice that. It's a good way of staying awake throughout the day. This does hold a very sacred place because of where certain parts of you live, where they call home. Okay. Yeah. Questions? I'm not wrapping up yet. I'm just making sure that we're still all together on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens later is this. Personality at some point in time becomes negative, and the essence or the soul of you becomes positive. This has to do with this idea of what drives you. You can do it in a bar like this, where you have body, personality, body, and essence. Yeah. And in most people, the triad kind of goes this way. Once you start to do this, then you have this backward look, body, and a forward look at the essence. You place yourself in the body, you get this perspective of being able to see both of those. But the body should not be in charge. It's just it's a place to sit, to be able to watch these things. Okay. Eventually, the whole thing gets reversed, and this angle going this way ends up going this way. All right. So that the essence controls the body, which then controls the manifestation of your personality. It's that kind of reversal. You understand?
Yeah.
I think last year when we were doing this, I gave it a breathing exercise. That's useful if you want to go watch video 3. I think it's still a useful exercise, but I believe this was more useful. It's okay not to get fixed on a certain method as long as you achieve the same results. All right. Yeah. Remember the posture? We talked about the personality as being nebulous, that cloud around you. Remember that lesson? That is your aura. It's your aura. And if you get really sensitive, begin to, instead of focusing yourself here, watch yourself and get an aspect of your personality where you tend to look at certain things. Mark, think about that beautiful piece of music. It lives right in front of you, but also on the sides of you. Okay, what happened with your eyes when you did that? It was you actually went like this. You put a curtain over the eyes so that it could sense the music instead of looking at something in particular. But you can put your consciousness there. Yeah, just like you put it here. You can say, I'm going to think from that favorite piece of music standpoint. I'm going to think from that first kiss, or I'm going to think from the color and look of the first door, or any number of things that you begin to identify in your personality. This is all very good training. We could borrow from a piece of training that Gurdjieff got from the Hesychist tradition, which was the I am exercise. Yeah, are you familiar with the I am exercise? Okay. This is an interesting phenomenon. First of all, memorize this phrase. I am, I can, I am can, I am, I wish, I am wish. Okay, so you understand? I am, I am.
Yeah.
Second one is I can.
Yeah.
Third one is I am can.
Yeah.
Fourth one, I am. Fifth is I wish. And sixth is I am wish. Now, as you say this, they use mantras a lot in the East, don't they? But as you say this kind of mantra, and you can practice this all day long, by the way, but as you say this over and over and over to yourself, then you locate yourself here. But when you say the words I am, if you do this exercise correctly, you're going to feel this echo in your solar plexus. See, it's too zoomed out. You're going to feel an echo in your solar plexus, right? That I am feeling will radiate out of you. And it's a good first step in developing the ability to actually be. I can is generally not true for most people in the beginning. But when you say I am can, in other words, you are the ability to do something, then you are kind of stepping into the role of what it means to be human. Yeah. You understand? I am can. I am the essence of can. But as you say, I am. I want it to come from your solar plexus. Feel that reverberation, that bounce, that echo that happens in there. Practice this nonstop, day and night, as much as you can. You'll know you've kind of got the hang of it when you wake up in the morning and it's still going on. Yeah. As soon as you wake up in the morning and you have that sense of that reverberation going on of the I am in your solar plexus, which is by the way, do you know that your solar plexus is exhaust, right, for your complex? So when you radiate something out, it's coming from the solar plexus area in you. Okay, this is the reason why people laugh and cry with stomach convulsions. It's the convulsing of the diaphragm kicking off the extra energy. Yeah. This is the receiver, your throat. Yeah. Most animals, when they want to show you their submission, they'll expose their throat. It's the same thing with humans. Yeah. But if a human exposes their throat, it's the vulnerability. It's because this is where you're receiving something. It's not just because it can easily be damaged. I mean, eyes are more easily damaged than the throat. There goes that logic. People don't do that when they're feeling vulnerable, do they? Yeah. It's openness, it's receptivity for the essence and by way of the emotional center, but it depends on if the other centers are actually sitting here. Okay. Does this exercise make sense? I want to make sure it does to you so that you can practice it. Like I said, Gurdjieff borrowed it from the Hesychist tradition, and which is the esoteric aspect of the Eastern Orthodox Church. Hesychism just means like silence of mind. Yeah, and in their tradition, they say, Kyrie Jesu Christe, Jetu Theo, Eliesometon, Amen, over and over and over again. That's what they say. All right. You know what it means, yeah? Doesn't matter.
No, I don't know what it
It
means.
doesn't matter, right? It's the intent behind it. It's Greek. Kyrie Jesu Christe. You can probably translate that yourself. Anyway, doesn't matter. You understand. What I'm trying to get across is the intent of it. If you prefer that version, you most certainly can do it. It has the same result, has the same benefit. Just don't put the a center on the end of it. That's a recent addition.
What?
Moses,
You ask.
and what?
Go on.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
you
bite.
didn't know what those words meant, but you two, you didn't want to ask.
I did ask.
You didn't get an answer.
You want to know as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Kyrie is God.
Okay.
Kyrie. Kyrie means Lord. Kyrie, Lord.
Lord. Ah.
Or
Ah.
Dominus. Okay, Dominus in Latin.
Ah, right. So it's the Greek version
God.
of Adonai.
Kyrie Jesu. Jesu. You know that
Yeah.
one, Mark.
Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
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 But it's
It
not
has a
asking
much deeper
to be
meaning.
merciful. It's asking for it to be the essence of mercy.
Okay.
Right.
I get it. Yeah.
I wanted you to get it third hand. It's the third person's confirming what I've told you. Yeah. Right. Okay. It's all right. This is the thing between us. Yeah. Yeah.
You see, but if something works, it works for every human. It doesn't matter what culture you're from, right? I'm not going to go into necessarily what they do in the mountains of Mount Athos, because we're not in the mountains of Mount Athos. Let's do it a way that we can actually do it in our own lives. And if it means I am, I can, I am can, I am, I wish, I am wish. Just make it like a prayer that you hold in yourself constantly. Keep it in a certain place. It'll change your life, ladies and gentlemen. It really will. It'll open up so many new things for you.
Is it best before doing that prayer, that call over, to do the exercise of focusing on the solar plexus first? You know, that categories fit together.
Yeah, right.
And then
Good point.
once being
Center
in there
yourself
to
first.
then do this. Yeah.
Yep. Center yourself first. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So last week's exercise was a bit preliminary. It's just getting you used to getting some sensations from a different part of yourself. And we're just so used to living in this cloud around our head or in and around. Yeah. So yeah, definitely center yourself first with last week's exercise. With this week's exercise, begin to feel yourself radiate that I am. You know, in modern society, they have this expression, fake it till you make it. Have you heard that expression? Fake it till you make it. In
Yes.
ancient times, it was
Yes.
become what you think about, or you will become what you think about. I would say that they're both basically pointing to the same thing. They're pointing to this idea of however you act is what you become, especially if you do it consciously. If you do it unconsciously, you're already that. Yeah? But if you consciously act a certain way, then with the intent of becoming it, you will eventually. That's kind of a shortcut of development, honestly. Not really a shortcut, because it still takes a lot of work, a lot of energy to do so, but it doesn't involve studying anything except for you. Study yourself. All right. There is one thing that I want to talk about. Are we clear on that exercise?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, because I have practiced this, and interestingly enough, you would think that it would become a moving center habit. And there's a certain aspect where the moving center does pick it up and can play it like a record. But because you're staying located with the three parts of you here and kind of converging them, it never feels habitual, if that makes sense. Like I can take a sip of coffee because I've done it a million times in my life without thinking about it. That's moving center function. But the I am exercise, although it begins to take on a life of its own, doesn't become like that, if that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, you've heard prayers, right? In the, you know, Padre, Christe, Filii Sancti, whatever, you know, Dominoes and biscuits and all the rest that they talk about, right? It's easy. For those with the Catholic reference, Dominoes and biscuits. They're always talking about Dominoes and biscuits.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know? Okay. Listen to a Catholic mass sometime and see how many times that Dominoes and biscuits kind of sound comes out.
Ah, but the Pope's banned it.
Yeah.
You
Anyway,
can't
it doesn't
say
have to
that
become like
in
that.
Latin anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
Fortunately, the clergy have all rebelled against him, and now we're going to carry on. But that's beside the point.
Now you carry on in that.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, in any event, it doesn't have to become mechanical, like, you know, say 25 Hail Marys and call me in the morning type of thing. Yeah. You can have it constantly going on in you with meaning. Now, even as we sit here right now, it's happening in me. And whenever it gets to that I am, it radiates. I am into the room. Now, am I? Well, I don't know. I do know. That's not the point. The point is that you can actually get to that stage of being I am. How many people can say that? I am. Well, that's a
What
biblical
do you
expression,
mean
isn't
by
it?
it?
Huh?
What do you mean by who can say it? Is able to say it.
What level of being does a person have to be where they can actually use the words I am with meaning?
I'm not sure.
Complete guess. Some person that is essence focused or essence centered.
Sure. Yeah. They have to be at least man number 4, right? Before they can begin to say I am. Do you know man number 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Loosely.
Let's go over that, okay? This is going to be important for, in addition to the I am exercise for you this coming week. I want to elevate the previous practice that you have of categorizing things in different boxes. Yeah, where you take something and go, right, that was thinking center, that was moving center, that was emotional center. We're going to amplify that a bit and then begin to think about man number 1, 2, 3, and then potentially the I am or the man number 4, okay? So let's go back to the drawing board, as they say. We've got the thinking center in the top story, emotional and moving center. Now, where does the sex center come into this? We've had some discussion about this.
Where does the I think I missed that, Pierce. Where does the
sexual center
sex center
come in? Yeah, because I said most people don't really have one. I'm gonna get these laws in you so that you always come at things from the laws.
I always thought about it, Pierce, as a booster, surge, urge, this sort of thing.
Okay. You know triads, don't you? We've talked about these triangles and the triads, haven't we? Yeah. So if you take one of these centers, say the moving center, and you put it in the form of a triad, you've got moving, you've got instinctive, and you've got sex. The sexual center neutralizes the two. In most people, this is why I say most people don't have a sexual center, they have a sexual function. Moving instinctive, it's the part that regulates and balances those two aspects. It is possible to become pentagrammic. This is why I said, look, the Penniman book, very novice-y. Yeah, it is possible to become pentagrammic, but as it stands, for most people, sex is a function of their instinctive need, or a habit, or a hunger, not the actual creative aspect of things. And most people, the sexual center from a pentagrammic standpoint is almost completely depleted because it's constantly giving its energy to everything else in the organism. So Anyway, let's get back to this though. So in each of these, you have a split. The moving center is split into the instinctive on the positive, which did I put it that way? I did this wrong, okay? Instinctive is positive and moving is negative, okay, in that particular center. In the emotions, generally you can call it something like and dislike, but with an emotional aspect to it. Yeah. Things that either you're drawn to or repelled by with an emotional context. You understand? And then thinking works by compare and contrast. One of the hardest things to do is to teach somebody. And the reason why is because when a person brings their personality to a lesson, they have all kinds of history behind them. Yeah. And the thinking center is responsible for going, does this jive with what I've already been told? Not with what I already know to be true, but what I've been told to be true. You understand the difference? Now, if you're coming from a strong Emin background and Pierce says something like, the average human doesn't have a sexual center, there's going to be a part of you that goes, that doesn't jive with what I've been told. Yeah, that's the thinking center going, here's my basis, here's my reality that I've constructed, my puzzle that I've put together about life, about things that I've learned. And when something new comes in a positive vector, it goes against that and says, does this match? Right? Not with what I know, but with what I've been told. Yeah, you understand? So those are the basic divisions in there. Each of them has a positive and negative aspect to it. Now, there's a further division. As triads, each of them also has a thinking, an emotional, and a moving aspect, giving us 6 pieces to each center. You see? So you can say thinking, emotion, moving on the positive side of things, and same thing on the negative side of things. So in the thinking center, you have a thinking part of the thinking center. What would that be? That would be purely intellectual, purely analytical, not even memorization. We'll get to that in a minute. That's pure thought. If you're doing a math problem and you are solving something or you are working from point A to point B through some sort of theorem, very dry, very pristine in that way, thinking, okay? Thinking emotional. A lot of people put work like this in their thinking/emotional center because it causes intellectual titillation. You know the word titillation? Intellectual, what would be another good word for that? Stimulation. Yeah. You all have subjects, and people, especially in the occult and esoteric realms, they all have subjects, like you're really into the tarot. And so if I say something about tarot, yeah, then that emotional part of the thinking center is going to go, ooh, I want to know more about that, right? I'm hungry for that. Tell me more about that. You see the difference? It's the emotional part. It titillates about it. The moving part of the thinking center would be pointless banter, chatter, or telling the same stories over and over again. If you are in or have ever been in any kind of serious long-term relationship, you will get to the point where both you and your partner recognize that you're telling the same stories over and over again. Yeah. Everyone can laugh because it absolutely happens. Yeah. Oh, you've told me that before. No, there are you. You told me that before. Okay. You said that already. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But as you go through the next week and you begin to refine your categorization of things, you can go, oh, when I was telling the same story that I've told you 95,000 times before, it was coming from the moving part of my thinking center. You see, good to know. right? Interesting. Don't judge it. This is not about going, I'm bad, I'm sinning. Here I am again in the moving part of my thinking center. This is just how it's divided. This is how we're constructed as a beautiful human machine. All right. Same thing with the emotion. There's a thinking part of the emotion center. What's a good example of that? Thinking part of the emotional center often shows up as justification. Let's say, and I know no one's ever been in a situation like this, but let's say that you're just madly in love with the wrong person. Right? In your past, right? Where you're like, oh, gosh, I really like things about them. It's justification because the emotion has you, and then the justification comes in. Let's take that one out, scratch that one. Let's say going to buy a car. Okay. Going to buy anything of high value. You know what a salesperson does? Salesperson's job is to try to stay in this quadrant here, the thinking part of the emotional center. And what they'll do is they'll help you justify the purchase. Oh, right, yes, it is an $80,000 car, but how do you feel when you sit in that? Or, can you imagine getting 50 miles to the gallon because it's a hybrid? Or can you imagine, it's all of this justification. You walk out the door spending $80,000 on a vehicle and going, boy, was this a good purchase. This was a great purchase, right? I can now justify this because I have this thinking part of the emotional center that makes it okay. Just things to think about. The emotional part of the emotional center, mostly unused in people. This is where true religious essence can live in oneself. It is that pure emotion. It doesn't have the bias. It just sees things as they are, in a religious sense. Usually religious. There's other contexts. The moving part of the emotional center, what do you suspect that would be? Likes and dislikes. Not against a criteria of useful, not useful, but take someone who was, well, in America, we have the, Democratic and Republican parties and all of these types of things, and people become staunch believers in this or that, right? And yet, if you ask them what the heck it means, right? Well, what is a Democrat versus a Republican? Usually they'll flounder and can't even tell you what the difference is exactly. It's that moving part. They become habitually attached to something in that way. Okay, now, the thinking part of the moving center, good example of that would be some people are insatiable. I'm trying to put single words to things. So insatiable, thinking part of the moving center. The moving center, for example, may love to read books, or more modernly is scrolling through social media, right? Anytime there's a dull moment in one's conscious existence in our culture today, it's immediately open up the phone and start looking at Facebook and scrolling through all the random shit. Oh, that's interesting, right? Oh, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's what it is. It's the thinking, the moving center. It has no true value to you unless you are able to alchemically extract value from these things. It's just, what else are you going to do when you're on the toilet, for instance? People do it. Right? The emotional part of the moving center. Let me think of a good example of that. So the moving center is always going to be around habits. You have certain records or tracks or tapes that get played out over and over again with regards to emotions. It's very close to its opposite, which is the moving part of the emotional center as opposed to the emotional part of the moving center. But it would be attitudes, sentiments, beliefs, passions that a person has about things that are never really elevated out of that aspect and looked at as this is why I'm passionate about this or that. You know? Religion can also sit in there, unfortunately. Shouldn't, but it can and does often. All right. I'll leave it to you to find many, many, many more examples, but this will give you a lot to do during the day as you I am yourself and you begin to watch this behavior as though you're watching a movie, watching something play out. You can then, you're better equipped to be able to say, that was an emotional part of the thinking center, for example, or any of these others. Now, they all have their negative counterparts as well. Although this one, the negative side of the emotional center, is completely fabricated by our culture. It doesn't need to be there naturally. We'll get to that. It's too soon to talk about that. I don't talk about it, but it's too soon to work into it because, one of the biggest temptations in this work is that once you start to make observations about yourself through observations, you immediately want to change everything. And I would urge you, don't watch yourself until you learn humility. You understand what I mean? Learn humility, because usually it's a lack of humility that makes a person want to change some aspect of themselves that they see instantly. They feel a sense of guilt or shame, saying, oh, I'm not really like that. It was just a rare incident, so I'm going to immediately go and change that. And it never works. All it does is invokes the other law of creation, which is you lean upon that which resists you. Change will happen organically. Don't set out to change anything. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Scientist about this. Observe yourself as you see yourself, and don't shy away from it. Remember, in lesson 1, we talked about that. Really needing to honestly look at ourselves. Avoid it, okay? Please. If you take nothing away from this lesson today, just avoid tinkering with the machine. That's not your job right now. Your job is to look at it, observe it as it is. You know what that leads to is actual conscience. Actual conscience, not consciousness, but objective conscience eventually. But you got to be able to look at it and look at it without being shy. Look at it without blushing. Yeah, what was it? It was Leo quoted it in the dedication. It was originally written by Eliphas Levi that said, if you hold by anything in this world more than by something truth and justice, I can't remember exactly what it was. If logic alarms you, if the naked truth makes you blush, then proceed no further, because failure can be your companion. That's really poignant to this kind of work. It wasn't Leo originally, just so you know. But again, we're about truth here, aren't we? Yeah. Okay. I'll settle down now. My soapbox is worn out. What do y'all think? Do you have questions? Do you need? This is personal development night, right? This is what you were saying. Yeah.
I'm totally with you on it. Yeah, it's it definitely has a different flavour. Definitely has a different proposition to it. Just try not to trot out standard references from the past as much as I possibly
can. It's tough, isn't it?
It's what?
It's tough, isn't it? Not to.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. But I like where we're going with it. It's it's got a real feel of live human experimentation, knowing oneself, doing. You won't develop by sitting in a chair.
Yeah, right.
Is obviously something that's powerfully hit me today. And over the last few days as well. And so much to think about as well.
Yeah, it's the night. I mean, the things that you say, though, I just want to reiterate how useful that can be.
Yes.
Because each time you hear something that makes you want to throw out a reference or to tie it into something, or to say, well, Leo said this, or I remember reading in an archive this or that, you can now use that and say, I wonder what part of my complex this is coming from.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
This motivation to do that, right? And yeah, it's very facing. It's not easy, but I don't think anyone ever said personal development was easy,
So
Nature doesn't require it of you.
the other thing it's kind of coming across to me is that the actual grids don't matter that much as long as it's a grid to help you do something. And so you were saying about the penny in, leave that alone, or well, you didn't say that, but you said,
It's elementary.
It's academic, yes, unless you are using it to know about yourself, to observe yourself. It's academic. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, what you're in essence saying is that some people will use a book like the Penniman
Yes.
to load their thinking center with facts about, like, oh, white does this and red does this and so on and so forth. Whereas the more appropriate use of a document like that is to see if it's true or not in your own self. Yeah, to really put yourself up against it and say, is this the way it works? And if you do that, you'll probably come away from it like I did, and say, well, kind of. It's missing some bits and pieces here, but that takes a real self-awareness. That takes a real struggle against oneself and self-knowledge to be able to look at something like that and pick out the pieces that are relevant and the pieces that are demonstrate where the person was at when they wrote it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good point.
Good. What else? Enzi, is this practical for you?
Yeah, very practical. I mean, every week we learn new exercise, or several of them. All of them have been hard, but it, at least for me, it feels that we're going in the right direction. Even though I know nothing yet, but yeah, it feels right.
You have all the tools, though. That's all you need. Yeah. It's all you need is yourself and your willingness to be able to look at yourself. And I guess patience is another, as they say, virtue, being patient with yourself as you work through the process. All of you will forget to do this stuff, right? Raise your hand. I mean, have you remembered all week long, every day, what to do and how to do it? And yeah, just been constantly with it. It takes effort.
Yeah.
I think if I have to emphasize anything about this way, is that it's not necessarily easy, but it is doable. There's nothing that you have to go out and learn other than just a few very basic things, like the centers and the division of centers, and two of the universal laws, law of 3 and law of 7. It's not a lot to learn. The work happens as you put it into action, put it into application. Yeah, good. Okay. Reach out to me anytime, okay? If you have a question or something like that, just ping me with an email. Maybe we'll set up a one-on-one to chat about things. Nancy. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Sachin?
Yes, sir.
What do you think?
I think this is, for today, at least for me, this is pretty heavy. I've been partying pretty hard the last 2 days, and I am pretty hungover. Sorry to say. So I think right after this, I'm gonna take a nap and see if I can go watch the recording.
Okay, but no, please don't go into any kind of self-judgment about that, right?
No, I mean, I'm
got it.
self-judging. I'm judging myself, but not feeling bad about it. I mean, it's an ebb and flow. I have been partying hard, so I'm going to go. Either I'm going to go out for a walk because it's nice and sunny. That'll recharge me, or I'm going to take a nap. One of the two. One of the two.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Well,
I can't do any
either
both. I
way,
can't do any.
either way, just make a note of your inside of which one made the decision, which eye made the decision, right? I mean, there's an eye in there going, it's a beautiful day, I should take a walk. There's an eye in there going, that bed's even more beautiful, I should take a nap. Just observe which eye it is and then go, ah, that's that box. That's what made that decision. And then walk or nap, whatever you choose. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely been doing that. And I've also been practicing kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, heart soul meditation or heart meditation, basically taking the meditation into the soul. Like kind of
Yeah.
I've been doing that. I did that 2-3 times and it felt pretty good. I'm gonna keep doing it and I'll come back to you when I have something insightful to bring up.
Yeah. Just remember, everyone, that the words that go with this work is self-observation, not self-criticism, okay? It's too easy to just get into that, like I said before, we see ugly things about ourselves and we're like, I should probably change that and stop acting that way. Yeah, I used to give the analogy of a VCR. I guess that dates how long I've been. You know what a VCR is? Y'all are old enough, aren't you? Yeah. Can't do modern lessons. I'd have to say, imagine taking apart your MP4 player and putting it back together. But the point is that when you have something as advanced or mechanical with all kinds of moving parts in it, you don't just take it apart and go, wow, that's a really ugly looking gear, and chuck it, yeah, and put it all back together, because it's not going to work the way that it's supposed to. It's the same thing with ourselves. You will naturally evolve. It's an organic process. It's not a process of going, this is no longer what I want to observe about myself. You don't start throwing gears out. If you have some sort of habit, well, first of all, when you're centered here, like Hannah, like you were saying earlier, it's difficult to get stressed out. It's difficult to get caught up in those moments. That's natural self-development. It comes from the inside out, as opposed to looking at yourself going, stress, I don't like it when I act or feel this way, therefore I'm going to eliminate it. Instead, put yourself where you are, or where you can live, and those just naturally fade. Yeah. It's the same thing with the Bible, right? I've said this before, where Jesus' advice was to turn the other cheek. Now, there's 2 ways that you can approach that. If someone insults or assaults you, the uninformed approach is to invoke the discipline of following the rules. Someone strikes you on the right cheek. As a Christian, I am supposed to turn the other cheek and get hit there too. Right? That's following the legalistic way of doing things. But what this type of work teaches you is that if you locate yourself in a different place in yourself, that would naturally happen. You see, I'm not saying turn the other cheek is one of the rules of this work. What I'm saying is that you would never have to think about it. You're located, in other words, the way exudes out from you. It's not a set of rules that you apply to your life. Potentially one of the most misunderstood things that Leo ever wrote was the silver and gold rules, really, because most even people took those and goes, oh, these are what I should be doing with myself. You see, and they don't actually happen that way. It comes out of your standards, really, and what you are. Then you never have to memorize anything. All right. Thank you all very much. I hope today was useful for you, and we'll see you next week. The open meeting will also resume on Saturday, so you're all free to attend that if you like. Okay.
Thanks so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
I'll see you all.